Welcome to the Toddcast, your weekly leadership nudge. My name is Todd Long. This past weekend, I had the opportunity to watch 5 soccer matches in 26 hours. My son played in a tournament, so there was 3 matches I got to watch him play in, and then there were 2 World Cup matches that went on that I had an opportunity to watch also. And I realized something in that 26-hour period. Sports are about complaining. Well, that's not the entire thing, but there's a lot of complaining that goes on in sports. It's really easy to find, too. We complain about the referees. People complain about the players. They complain about performance. They complain about their schedule of who they compete against. They complain about rules. People complain about other fans. We even complain about the weather. We go to the sporting event. We complain about the cost of food, the cost of parking. We have to walk too far. We complain about crowds. Sports is about complaining. That's really interesting. And if I look at myself, I have to confess, I do some complaining when I watch sports. What's interesting about complaining is at the heart of complaining is the emotion of irritation or being mad. We're mad about something. I've been talking about the motions of leading people, and I want to focus this podcast on really leading ourselves when we get mad or irritated. Let's make this happen. Welcome to the Toddcast, your weekly leadership nudge. Welcome to the Toddcast, great ideas you'll love. Welcome to the complaint department. What complaints do you have? If you sit and think about it for not very long, you'll probably identify a number of complaints in your life about the work you do, the responsibilities you have, where you live, all sorts of things. Now, I don't want you to go down that path too far because it's really easy to get into the complaint world. So think about complaints. A complaint really is a dissatisfaction, an annoyance, or feeling unhappy about a situation, a service, or some sort of even physical pain. We can have a complaint about that. But it's the expression of that. Underneath the complaint, though, is the emotion of being mad. And that emotion of being mad has a range, anywhere from irritation to rage, depending on the circumstance and the situation that we're encountering. I want to look at this idea of complaints, but also underlying it, the notion of irritation or feeling mad. I want to look at what does complaint get us? It gets us something, and how it's connected to this emotion. I'm going to contrast some things that it gets us, and then I want to look at what do we do with that, give you the try it out section, our quote of the week, and then we'll wrap things up. What does complaining get us? I want to look at 5 different categories. The first is emotional pressure. Think about this. Complaining relieves pressure, but it also can increase pressure. When we complain, we say, I just need to get it off my chest. I need to vent a little bit. That's the releasing of pressure. But it can also increase pressure, particularly if we're venting over and over again, and that cycle of feeling of irritation can even grow more and more in us. If that's all we're doing about the situation, the problem, the irritation, is venting over and over. So it actually increases the pressure. That's the first category. And let's look at the second category, relationships. So what does complaining get us in relationships? 1, it can get us friends, or at least acquaintances, or it can get us enemies. Let's look at the friend side of it. We know the statement, misery loves company. Have you been in a situation where your plane is being delayed for a long period of time? It's a great way to make friends. Every time I've had a delayed flight, you can sit there and complain about the delayed flight and the experience you're having and the airline. And you can go on and on and on again, and that will open up that door to an acquaintance or a friendship. Complaining can also lead us to be an enemy. Now, that might be a strong word, but at least an annoying person. You know, those people you don't want to be around because they complain all the time, and it's irritating. That's the second category. Third category is problems. Complaining fixes problems, but also complaining makes problems worse. I said earlier the complaint department. That's why businesses and organizations have a complaint department or a customer satisfaction department, to say it in a positive way. We've all been in a restaurant where we had an issue with our food, and then we had a problem that needed to be fixed with it. We needed something to change with it, so we made the request to have that changed. I remember eating at a restaurant with my wife. We're eating our queso, and we dipped our chip into it and found a piece of plastic. Ugh, pretty easy complaint to make to our server at the restaurant. Needless to say, we got that for free. So the complaints can fix problems, but they can also make the problem worse. If we complain in such a way that causes irritation to the person that we're complaining with, they can get defensive, and there can be retribution for that complaint if we push it too far and go to the extreme of expressing that complaint. Again, remember, the emotion behind this is mad, or irritation all the way to rage. Here's the fourth category: task completion. Complaining can get something done, but on the contrast of that, if we're complaining, we may not learn something because we aren't handling it ourselves. Imagine this situation. An employee has received a complaint from a customer. So that employee goes to their manager and complains to their manager about the complaint from their customer. The manager says, "Hey, I'll handle this." And they go take care of the situation with the customer, as opposed to helping the employee go have that conversation with the customer to help resolve it. So complaining can get a task completed, but it can also hinder learning or growth with the person. The final category is humor. I like this one. We think about complaining and irritation or feeling mad. Humor as a category, it can cause laughter. There's a lot of fun in complaining, but it can also be rude. Jerry Seinfeld, a very popular comedian over the last several decades, he's making a comeback. His whole routine, his whole bit is about complaining about something. He just puts a topic on the table and he just goes and complains about it in many ways and different perspectives to help people find some humor in it. I love the Far Side cartoons by Gary Larson. He creates these one-picture images with a statement below it that provides some humor. Here's one I found recently. There's a line of cattle that are walking into the meatpacking company. And one cow says to the other, "Just look at this line. They'll never get me to come back here again." Complaining can be funny. But also complaining can be rude, especially when we make passive-aggressive comments. Those are 5 categories of complaints, which is driven by irritation. And we can see the contrasting aspects to this notion of complaints and how it comes out of us. Now, what do we do with this? I'm going to give you some solutions here. I'm going to give you 4 ideas that I think will be helpful for us in thinking about a solution. Number 1, it starts with self-restraint. And in that self-restraint, we have to ask ourselves, what am I getting out of this? And then what do I really want? But then the last question, what's best? And what's best for myself, what's best for others, and what's best for the situation. And all those have to come together, because if all we're looking at is best for myself, we're going to miss something and miss the solution, the answer to the irritation that is causing us to complain. There's the first thing, self-restraint. Number 2, I heard this statement years ago and I love it. Behind every complaint is a request. I would also add an instruction. So behind every complaint is a request. As we're starting to feel irritated, frustrated, and that complaint starts to come out of us, we have to ask ourselves, what do we really want? Back to the last question. And then what requests can we make, or what instructions can we provide? Let's take a performance issue. You could take any performance issue you wanted to with somebody else that's supposed to get something done. And you simply make the request, would you please perform this particular task in this particular way by this particular time? That's a request. Would you? That's a question. We could also pose it as an instruction. I need you to complete this task by this time in this particular way. That is instruction. That's number 2. Number 3, find the like. I borrowed this from Mary Lucas, a friend of mine, who wrote a book a few years ago called Lunch, Meat, and Life Lessons, Sharing a Butcher's Wisdom. This is an amazing book about the stories and advice she learned from her father, who started the Bicklemeyer Meat Company. It still exists today. And she tells this wonderful story about her working in an industry where she was serving a client, and all her employees started to complain about this particular client. And it got to the extent that nobody wanted to work with the client. And this is a huge client. And Mary paused the team and said, hey, we got to stop this complaining. We have to find the like. That team made an effort to find the things that they could like about this particular client. And if they complained, they had to put money in the jar. It switched that relationship around by simply looking at the positive things that they could see in this client. The last thing I'll offer is find the learning. When we feel irritation or frustration emerge in us, we feel that complaint show up in us, what can we learn from this situation? There's 5 things you can do with a complaint which is driven by that irritation. Here's the try it out section. This is going to be really challenging. I want you to go to a sporting event or watch a sporting event on TV and practice restraining yourself by not complaining at all. That's an internal complaint or an external complaint. I tried this exercise out myself in 2 of the matches that I watched this weekend, and it was really hard. It was really hard because I could stop myself from verbally complaining, but mentally complaining was a much different story. And then also I found myself complaining about myself complaining, which is a whole nother level of complaints and irritation. Try it out as you exercise self-restraint and practice not complaining. Here's your quote of the week. It comes from the book I just mentioned, Lunch, Meat, and Life Lessons, Sharing a Butcher's Wisdom. Steer the conversation towards finding the like. I would add to that, steer the conversation internally and externally to finding the like. Thank you for listening to the Toddcast, your weekly leadership nudge. I've got an opportunity for you. If you send me an email with a link to a Far Side joke by July 20th, 2026, I will put your name into a drawing to win the book, Lunch, Meat, and Life Lessons. I'll also send you my performance leadership book. Send me that email with that link to the Far Side joke. I pray for self-restraint this week. I pray when we feel irritation rise up in us, that we might have the wisdom to pause and restrain ourselves and know what to do with it. Thank you so much again for listening. Have a great week. Bye-bye.